Kei konei, yeah. And so, does anybody remember or still have our karakia from last week?
Kia ora te whānau. Sorry, I had my internet froze. So I had to reboot my computer again.
All good, bro.
Yes.
Horo, do you mean the long one that Kelly shared?
Yeah, we did half for the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
I've got a screenshot of it.
Cool. So you want to just chuck that up, and then that'll be our karakia, and then we'll get into it. Ka pai whānau. So we're going to go through the top, and we're going to go through the first tau mai te Māori, haumia hui e tae kia. Ka pai whānau. Cool. So me karakia.
Oh, heck, hang on.
Oh.
Sorry, whānau, it just went to present. Yeah, here we go. This one here. Boom. Can everyone see that okay?
Sweet ass.
Cool.
Ka pai whānau. So me noi tatai. I te tīmatanga ko io, mai a io, ka puta ko ngā pō. Ko te pō nui, ko te pō roa, ko te pō uri uri, ko te pō kere kere, ko te pō tahuri atu, ko te pō tahuri mai. Kei a te pō te huatakitanga o te oro Māori a te atua. Ki runga, ki raro, ki roto, ki waho. Ko ihi rangaranga, ko Māori ori, toi te kū, toi te pū, toi te wai, toi te ata. Ka puta ko te ao. Tau mai te Māori, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e. Ka pai whānau. And so, ka pai whānau. So, nau mai hoki mai rā tātou mā ki tēnei wiki anō. Kei te haere ngātahi tātou, ki runga anō i tēnei kaupapa. Ki runga i tēnei kaupapa o tātou. Ana ko māua anō tēnei, ko Kelly, māua ko Horomona, e tukuna atu te mihi kia koutou, i runga anō i ngā kaupapa mō ngā taonga puoro, mō tēnei kaupapa o Menza, puta atu i ngā kaiako o te motu. Once again, whānau, it's a pleasure being again with you, and I'm glad you can actually see my face this time around. From last week being stuck inside of a car on the side of the road on the East Coast, I'm glad everybody can actually see my face now. And just as a reminder, in the beginning of each session, I'm usually jumping onto this page. What is our kaupapa is to delve into the deeper learnings through a te ao Māori lens, explore its musical histories and tikanga, learn and develop insight into key terms like ihi, wehi, wana, develop knowledge in traditional composition techniques and tikanga, as well as key te ao Māori concepts in te ao puoro. And it's a pleasure having everybody back this week. And for those that were here last week, if you remembered what Kelly spoke about for our 30-second whiz around everybody, the tono was to bring an instrument. And so he aha tō puoro, what is your instrument? And this will be our context, our kaupapa for our 30-second whakawhanaungatanga around everybody this evening. And so before we get into it, I'm going to ask if people can chuck their hands up again, just on the top, using the reactions. If we can chuck our hands up, and we can get into doing our kaupapa of reactions for this evening, for our what is our puoro. And just to kickstart off, this is my puoro here. Now this is a kōwauau. It is just a clear kōwauau made from a dog bone. I usually put this in my ear, but because I'm wearing headphones, I had to pull it out. And I take this kōwauau pretty much everywhere with me. And whenever I go to a marae, go to a school, go to a place, and they ask me to get up and speak, I'll usually grab my ear, and this is usually in it, and I've got myself a waiata tautoko or support waiata when I go around the place. And it is just a little tiny bone that has been all around the world with me. And so that's my 30-second share of my puoro today, and it's a kōwauau made from dog bone. So I'm going to hand it over to Lenny, kei a koe te wā. Ka hoatu au te rākau kōrero, kia Lenny.
Kia ora, everyone. I've got one of these fellas. So I just had sort of my basic introduction to taonga puoro recently at the Wānanga, and couldn't make any sound out of these, but I had a few at home just because I like them, the way they look. So I've given it a real good crack, and I can make sound now. And I've brought them into school, and I find that when the kids are being a little bit rowdy, if I start playing this, they calm down. So that's my favorite at the moment. I will pass on to Trevania.
Tēnā koutou ngā mihi o te pō. Kia ora Lenny, pai tērā anga, the shell. So anei, ngā tuka, and these are just my pounamu little rocks tuka, but I love these because I play these with my puoro, and often I will just make some noises with them together, but I'm starting to find pockets in all sorts of places, and I take whatever to karakia. In my pocket, if I got a tuka, that's what's playing. If it's a kōwauau, that's what's playing. So, tuka, pounamu. Gonna huri te rākau kia Emily. Kia ora, Emily.
Kia ora, everyone. I was very lucky to go and visit Trevi last week, and she suggested that I go to the Punamu Tonga shop in Ke Whata, and so I did, and so I have also got some stones, and I have been just playing with them and tapping them, and that's my start. But thanks to Trevi for that suggestion. And ka hatu a I rākou korera ki a Papua.
Kia ora tātou, waitikiti a koutou I tēnei pō. Kei ahau tētahi hurere hua, kare anō kia mutu, how high. For Matariki, we've our whole kura, of these 500 of us, and those who choose to are going to make the pūrere hua and design their own at kura, and then we're going to play them on our field, on our rugby field. And so, yeah, so, yep, and they get to design their own, can you see that? It's this way, their own mahi toi. And so the girls, whoever wants to, are going to make their own poi, and whoever wants to make the pūrere hua are going to do this. And so we'll have the poi in the hall and the pūrere hua on our rugby field. So Emily came to visit me today, and she made her own poi. So it was a crash course on how to make the poi. So yeah, so that's how we're going to spread pūrere hua in our kura. So he kura auraki and kei a mātou nā karahe e toru. So, yeah.
Awesome, Rapua. How many of those pūrere hua did you say you were making? 500?
Yep. Hi.
Watch out, you might get a plague of locusts descending upon you. Awesome. And look out for thunderstorms throughout the rest of the country. Kia ora. Might be flooding down in Kirikiriroa, if we're not careful. Kia ora, koutou. Atara ki tā pua pua.
Ai, ai. So ka huata hau te rākau ki a koe Jane.
Hello, everyone. These are my wee bag of goodies from the Wānanga. So I've just put them in a little bag I have, and I'm enjoying my little porotiti that we were gifted, and I have been taking this one to school, and we might be looking at making some, and a wee bit similar when the kids are a bit hyper or the boys are a bit fidgety. If I do this for them and ask them to sit down and just breathe, it is calming them down. And I have told them the story about what it's used for as well, like Horomona's story with the healing. And then we had Mahina come in on Friday, and she talked a wee bit about its use as well. So some good context for the students. And yeah, they've been really respectful of the story. So that's been nice, because teenage boys, I was always a wee bit worried that perhaps they would be a bit silly when people were explaining things to them about it. But they've been great. So yeah, this one's my favorite. And then I've just been collecting my little rocks and still going with my shell. And I did make a noise on my shell the other day. I swear it's taken about 3 weeks, but I think I listened to what you said, Kelly. Maybe it's not the right shell. I did get a bit of a noise, but I think there is a better one out there for me. So I'm just going to keep going with that. So yeah, kia ora. Ka huatu o te rākau kōrero kia Stephen.
Kia ora. So I took all my tangaporo to school and completely forgot to bring one home. Whoops. But I was really enjoying playing them again, and I made them at Ben's workshop, and yeah, it was just awesome to get them out again, and especially after we had a catch up at Shirley Boys with Jane, and there was a tangaporo session that was really awesome, and it felt really good to just keep it going, learn a little bit each day kind of thing has been really awesome. So don't have one to share tonight, but been really enjoying the journey anyway.
Stephen, can you show us your t-shirt? What is that? Te marama puoro Aotearoa. Kia ora.
Oh yeah, well this is represent New Zealand Music Month. That's the collab t-shirt that they did, so that's pretty cool. Not quite in time for May, but we just missed it.
Nice. Kia ora.
Ka hoatu o I te rākau kōrero ki Kāmo.
Kia ora. So last week I told you about my beautiful, beautiful child who has carved us our pukaya. And so I brought the pukaya to show you. So I need to back up because she's enormous. This is Orea. And our Urumaki is Waiorea because of the stream that runs next to it. So this is Orea. These are the closest we can get to huia feathers, because obviously you can't get them anymore unless you're really, really rich and go to an auction. But the person who carved it is called huia, so they carved a huia feather there, they say. So she has apologized because she went a little bit OTT on the mouthpiece and it got a bit big, so it makes a bit of a funny noise. But we love it, and she's going to carve an insert to go in it as well. But this is Orea, our pukaya, and it's our first ever tangaporo for the whole department. So it is our absolute treasure, our taonga. Ka hoato te rākau kōrero kia Adele.
Kia ora wa Trevi, aroha mai Trevi e. She came to visit me in my akomanga. So now, we have a, what is it, porotiti one, which actually on the same day that she came to visit, one of my boys had one in class. I don't know where he got it from, and I didn't know what it was called then, but he was playing it in class, and I said, can you hear anything? He goes, yes, Wai, I know how to do this. So that one makes me want to make them. Probably a little bit commercially, and my partner is going to try have a good look at this for the whole class. And then my first ever koao from Trevi again. I don't know how to play this very well yet, but I've been playing it down the hallway at home, and I made a sound, and then I shocked myself. I said, how did I do that? So we had another turn, and it didn't quite sound the same. So we're still having lots of practices, to see when and if we can actually make a sound that I can make most of the time, not just one-off times. But ngā mihi Trevi, because yay, I've got started. Kia ora. Ka hoa atu au I te rākau kōrero kia. Lenny.
I think Pauline hasn't had a go.
Pauline. Sorry, Pauline. Where am I, Pauline?
Pauline's doing some admin whānau, so she might not be there. So just in case that is, kia ora, Pauline.
Kei a koe, bro. Kei a koe, bro.
Tēnā tātou. Wonderful to see everybody's taonga. If we have a look inside of our chat right now, we're going to have a little look at how we te whakahuahua tika o ngā taonga. So that's how we pronounce these properly. So as we've talked about before, we're just going to break the kupu down. So we've got porotiti. Or even, there's not a porotiti or porotiti, it's porotiti. Let's have a go, porotiti. So the a, e, I or u, porotiti, nice. The next one we have, so the porotiti is, can someone show us a porotiti please? When I say this, bring up the instrument if you have it there, porotiti. Also known as the korohu. 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 Okay, the next one we have is the pū rerehua. Kia ora rapua. Whakaatu mai. Ai. So the pū rerehua. Let's have a go at that. Pū rerehua. Which is also the name for... What insect is named after this? Kia ora, here we go. Napoleon Dynamite's it. Yeah, kia ora. The pū rerehua. Oh yeah, that one, yeah. Nice. And then we had the pūkaya. Pūkaya. So someone had a pūkaya there, crafted at school. Was it? Yeah, te puno waiōrea. The pūkaya is that trumpet kind of sounding, looking one. And we use that as a whakarara, which is like an alert or to tell us that something's about to happen. Usually used in ceremony. You can see it in kapahaka as well. Pūkaya. Kōrero mai, pūkaya. Awesome. Okay, the taonga I'm going to bring today is this one here. And this is a hue. Yeah, from Hene Puta Hue. And I've been mucking around with this, so I've actually crafted some larger holes in it now. I had smaller ones and it wasn't very loud. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this one. So this one here is a real indoor kind of sounding one, and it's got, what is this design here, whānau? Yep, kito kauwai. We have two manaia that are coming down here, and some people say here, and this kauwai here is actually a moko moko, and it's to represent when some people say that in the Maui story, as he went into Hene Nui Te Pō, and she crushed him between her thighs with her obsidian teeth of death, as he tried to cheat death. Some people say that actually Maui was quite a long lizard, and he got to the point where he came out her mouth. So that's one of the reasons behind the tikanga moko kauwai, that some people have. The moko is the moko moko, and Maui made it out of her mouth, and he got crushed the last part of his body. So that's what she is representing here, is coming out of Hene Puta Hue, is a story about Maui emerging there too as a moko moko. So anyway, that's my taonga. A lot of our taonga will have different stories in them from us. You know, Horo's got multiple stories that are carved into his taonga as well, which is a big part of our taonga tūro history. Anyway, ngā mihi atu ki a koutou. Kia ora, Horo. Where are you, brother? Which airport are you at?
I'm in Auckland.
Oh, ka pai, I thought you were in Berlin or something.
Yeah. I'm just about to shoot off to Hawaii, and just to let the whānau know, the kaupapa I'm going to over in Hawaii is a kaupapa called the Festival of Pacific Arts and Culture. And so every 4 years, this particular festival is run, and it is hosted by a Polynesian island, then taken to a Melanesian island, and then to a Micronesian island. And so these are the three different parts known as the Pacific Ocean, or Te Moana Nui a Kiwa. All of us, all of the natives from all the different islands just call it Te Moana Nui a Kiwa. But through the mapping that our Western world has used, it has boxed the different parts of the Pacific into Polynesia, which we have the Polynesian Triangle between Hawaii, New Zealand, and Rapa Nui. And every island in between that triangle is known as Polynesia. And then from Polynesia next door, we have Melanesia, and then across towards Asia is Micronesia. And so this year it is hosted by Hawaii. And so, yeah, over the next two and a half weeks, there'll be arts and culture shared from all different parts of the Pacific over in Oahu, in Honolulu, in one of their cultural centers over there, where all the islands will be sharing their cultures. And the cool thing about Taonga Pōro is they've given me the opportunity to actually host a series of workshops to bring the different traditional musical instruments of the different Pacific islands together in one space, to hopefully get to the point where I'm hoping for next year, if not next year, the year after, to hold a Indigenous cultural music symposium here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And one of the first things I want to do for that is to bring a collective of particular practitioners from around the Pacific Ocean and all the different traditional instruments that they all play together, to be able to host it as a collective, as the Pacific, and open up the space for musical instruments to come in from Asia, from Europe, from Africa, from different parts of the world, but specifically cultural musical interpretations or cultural musical instruments. And so these will be able to bring together the stories of the trumpets, the stories of different areas and different flows like that. Before we move on, here is our kōrero discussion whakatauki. Last week, I only had a whakatauki Māori. And so this week, I thought I'd just balance it off and just grab one from the ethos. And this week, I thought I'd grab something from Robin Williams in one of his many presentations and comedic stands. He was actually quite the musician, like many actors and actresses are. And one of the quotes that he's known for in the world of music is saying, "You know what music is? God's little reminder that that's supposed to be there, not three. That there is something else besides us in the universe. Harmonic connection between all living beings, everywhere, even the stars." The reason why I chose this particular proverb or quote is it connects us back to our kaupapa of tonight, which is the continuation of deciphering and discussing and talking and having more wānanga about ihi, wehi, and wana. And last week I added mana and tapu to this as well. And so this is one of those quotes that remind us that ihi, wehi, and wana are actually those things that connect us between all living beings everywhere, even in the stars. Our stories, our quotes, our particular sayings. And so that's our little whiti kōrero for today whānau. And so in that, we're going to go back out into our breakout sessions just to connect us in finding how music from Te Ao Māori is guided through these things, but adding aspects of everyone has had a week to go home and maybe have a look into one of these particular things that because there was quite a lot said in last week's session that spoke about ihi, wehi, tapu, and mana. and within that is wana. And so in this, just reflecting back on, Robin Williams, it's there's something else out there besides us in the universe, and those are our connectors, those harmonic connections between all living beings everywhere, even the stars. And so in that particular saying, how does one connect, and what I wanted to have a bit more of a focus in for this week in the discussions in our groups is, how do we find that in our environment of our school? I know some of us are in Christchurch, some of us are a bit further down, some of us are in Auckland, some are in the far north, some in the Waikato, some over in Tauranga. And so how do we link, apart from these Tuesday evening sessions, how do we link in to find what is ihi wehi tapu mana? How do we, what are certain steps or processes that we can take, that we can use to connect us? Because through these processes, we will find that guide, we will find that delving into a te ao Māori lens. It is by the processes. It's not so much what you're asking for, it's the journey. You've heard both myself and Kelly speak about this. The journey at the end of it is the question being answered, but it's the journey that holds a lot of the gems for our questions. And it's how do we, as those practitioners, as those teachers, as those people sharing this kōrero through music to our students in our classrooms, or to our students outside of the classroom, how do we link into those things called stories from a taonga pūoro perspective? In this sense, te ao Māori being taonga pūoro, and how do we link that into our curriculum context in our schools? How do we connect that with the things that we're doing in our schools naturally, in our spaces? And so once again, whānau, we're going to break off into our 2 rooms, and in the breakout session we're going to have a little chat about those things, the continuation of ihi wehi wana, ihi wehi tapu mana, and how it connects us to our world, and how do we go about processing it or finding ways of connecting to it that we haven't tried already. And if we have tried it and it has worked, share that with your group, and maybe that would link in for those in our groups to give them guidelines and what can help them in processing in these spaces. And so here we go, whānau. I'm just going to put us into a couple of breakout sessions.
Horo, how would we summarize that pātaiza? Like, how do we connect to ihi, wehi, mana and tapu and music making in our classrooms? Is that kind of where we're going here?
Yes, and how and what processes can help us get there.
Cool. Okay, I'll just put in the chat.
Cool. And so here we go, whānau. We've got a couple of rooms. I'm just going to open them up for everybody right now. We'll give about five minutes on this, whānau. Have a good session. Kia ora, whānau. So just while our whānau are in our breakout sessions, I thought I'd just jump in and share a few things in terms of how can we as teachers start looking into or researching into those things called ihi, wehi and wana. You would have heard in last week's session some of our teachers talking about what does ihi mean, and what their group had discussed, and the same with wehi, tapu, mana, and the word wana came through a few times as well. Now, if you're one of those teachers that are a bit stuck in your school, that you don't really know too many people in your community. I suppose one of the things you can do is look for your Māori teacher in your school. They may not be, or they may be what we call poha, with being the go-to everything for the school for anything Māori, which is usually the case, because I've been that myself when I've gone into teaching schools. And when you're trying to be a teacher in your particular subject, or a range of subjects, and you're being asked left, right, and center for all these other things outside of your curriculum areas, it can be a bit frustrating. But what you can do is you can go and speak to the Māori teacher if they are available, and just ask if they know any local Māori that you could touch base with. You can connect with, you can talk to, you can contact, and start a conversation of what these particular things may be. I know the Ministry of Education, they have a support Māori collective. I do not know them personally, but that could possibly be a pathway as well. But for me, I will always go to your local kete mātauranga, as I would call it. Now, the local kete mātauranga would be somebody from your local area that is usually attached to one of your marae, one of the marae in the region, in your city, in your suburb, depending on where you are. There, you'll always be able to find it via Google, where you find what is my local marae, and then you will see the nearest marae. You will see a contact details and address, and it'll give you a start. Now, sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. And that's why touching base with one of your teachers may help as well. And just finding ways, being a musician or being connected in music, it is an art form, a practice that is very sociable. There are some musicians, however, that are quite introverted, but if they are a part of an ensemble or a symphony or a band, you know, there are particular people that you are continued creating conversations with. And so in these particular areas, it may help you find the connect. You know, ihi, the processing ihi in the music class, there are many ways that can happen. Like I said last week, but in addition to that, it is something that is interwoven in all music. It is the essence that brings the music to life. Wehi, it is that thing that excites you in the creation of the music. It is that thing that, you know, that thing that you feel inside you before you walk on a stage, before you perform, even in front of your classroom. Tapu, everything has tapu. We just call it tapu in Te Reo Māori, and what I mean by that is, with every musician that looks after their instruments, you know, there's a process in putting your violin back in its case. There's something that you do with your bow to loosen up the horsehairs. There's something that a guitarist does. They loosen up all the strings of the guitar before they go on an airplane. All of these little things are different forms of tapu, boundaries. They are processes of engagement that allows and looks after and protects certain things that we do as people. Mana. Now, mana has many understandings. One of those understandings that can help out a lot is, I'm just going to time them back in. And mana is that thing that brings all of these things into action, because mana is you don't give yourself mana. It is through the actions and that you do. It's through your students creating their new piece of music and performing it in front of you. It is not the point of what they are doing, it is what is the result of them doing it. And creating a new composition or learning a new piece of music that has already been composed and performing it and getting it for the first time, making mistakes along the way, but getting it for that first time. It's that feeling that you get, that thrill, and it's that feeling you get when you know you've successfully made it, when you know you've come to the end of that particular challenge and you've completed it. In that completion, it has brought you into that space of mana. And so, kia ora mai tātou e te whānau, nau mai hoki mai, ki tēnei o ngā kaupapa. Welcome back, everybody. I hope everyone had an awesome kōrero in amongst the question of your breakout sessions. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it this time. We're going to start off with group number 2. So if you have somebody from group number 2, you can start our discussion, our kōrero for us this evening. Kia koutou te wā.
Puri te rākau ki a koe, rapu ai hoa e kai. Am I on mute? Nah, not even, I didn't mute off.
I'm happy to take this one. We went off on a tangent, but it was the most beautiful, awesome tangent ever. So Rapu was talking us through all the different things that they're doing for the Matariki celebrations. And then, yeah, it was really cool because Trevania was talking about how lonely it can get when you're the person really driving it through in your kura. And then I was talking about the complications that I'm having in the co-governance model of I'd love to just go full steam ahead, but I'm also trying to build relationships and work really closely with the Rumaki and respect it and not step on toes, but also it's really separate. Like the English medium kids, it's just so separate and it's horrible and they don't do anything. So then I was stealing ideas from Rapu and we're trying to get a collaboration concert for Matariki, but even if that doesn't get off the ground this year, it will next year. But even if it doesn't, I'm like, actually, I'll just take Rapu's idea. And in the music department, we will make poi for the Matariki week because that's something that I can do without too much help because they taught me how to do it when I was little. So it's that kind of thing. But in terms of the ihi, wehi and wana, like we've been thinking about that in our department over the last couple of weeks because of these PD sessions. And we're always trying to explain to the kids the difference between playing music and performing music and using all of these words and all of these sentences and all of these phrases to try and get across, oh, well, it's stage presence, it's feeling it, it's doing this, it's holding the stage. And then it's like, it's ihi, like it's ihi and it's wehi. And that's the relationship. And they're starting to get that. And I was like, oh, man, we should have just... we should have just learned this word ages ago, blimmin' Pakeha. But yeah, so it's like the understanding that we're getting from these sessions has been so helpful in us bringing that into the classroom and then also helping our Māori students connect that because they already completely understand those concepts. So then we're saying, bring that from kapaka into your solo performances. Like that's what we're wanting here and that kind of stuff. So it's been amazing. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Awesome. That sounds really great. And the whole point of going into those breakout sessions and hearing one another's kōrero is exactly what you're talking about, Carmel, is being able to use one another and share the kōrero with one another to be able to say, whoa, that's working over in that school. Why don't we give it a go here? And the thing is, for those that are, are a bit or get challenged from their schools, you have a group of people here that can support you and that can sort of like be here in terms of the journey and to support you in those spaces. And so that is the, I suppose, one of those beautiful examples of when you put all those things together, that's mana tangata, you know. And so ngā mihi rōpū tuarua, thank you very much, Group 2. I'm going to hand it now over to Group 1. Whoever the one's speaking for you, take it away.
Sorry, I'm on my phone. I can't remember what group I was in. That's what gets me every time.
Yeah, kapai. Sounds like
So, yeah. So if you weren't,
Gene.
yeah. So if you were in the group with Carmel, who was just finished speaking, then you were Group 2. If you weren't, you were Group 1.
Right,
So, cool.
right. Only 2 groups, right? Okay, got it. So our group started talking about the challenge probably you set for us last year, or was set to make the connection so we can start giving the authentic experience. And that I'm finding that once you hear Tangaporu and hear the stories, you can't stop. The journey is on. It's all on. I mean, that's how it's been for me, and my students are starting to get like that as well. And we brought all the music teachers together in Christchurch, and Mahina came and Jake, and we finally made all those lovely connections. And now they're going to go out to schools, and the kids are going to get to experience some of this amazing stuff that we've experienced from you guys. So thank you so much. And then we all just talked about, for us, it's that the tikanga, and having to set that up first. It's been quite slow because the 3 of us that were talking, we didn't necessarily have those connections. So it's been a slow process, but the journey's been amazing. And then once we can get that into classrooms, that's really when the students can feel the spirituality of it, and that it is for healing. So it's very hard to launch into that. So yeah, we talked about it comes down to the relationships, and it's just been a bit of a journey to get that. And now we're sort yeah, and that's how we can then have the ihi and the wehi there in front and feeling it for the students and the teachers as well. And some of those teachers had never heard that before. So for them to hear Mahina and we had some nice sound effects on it, and then Kelly talked about you bring that into the classroom, turning lights off, and you know, having that very creative space and spiritual space. That's when you're going to start to feel it. So you got to get the tikanga in the classroom to even be able to start with that. So I think that sort of might have summarized what we were talking about.
Ka pai, that's really awesome. And don't think slow and steady is not a good thing. Slow and steady is actually, you know, that's just the journey. As Kelly and I said last week, and you may have heard us say a few times over these weeks that we've been doing this, is, you know, this is a journey. That the kaupapa that we're on is a journey, and part of the journey can seem pretty slow. Part of the journey can seem pretty challenging in terms of the sometimes when we're in different spaces, it's hard to find support. It's hard to be, you know, be that hand solo in terms of being that one person in a number of different things that are holding it together. And so having those spaces, having Jake's a good one down there alongside Mahina. Jake's another one coming through the aka of Haumanu Collective, and he's also recorded his music, and he's got a whole range of experience in the producing side of things and that as well. And so it's creating and building our story, and sharing that with the local Māori actually allows them to feel part of the journey as well. And that's where the richness of the once you connect with your local Māori, with your local hapu, local whānau, local iwi, the richness of pūrākau will start coming out in the conversations. It may not come straight away because they're building trust with you. That's part of the journey of ihi, wehi, tapu and mana, is actually building the trust that you are open enough and you are safe enough for them to share their stories with. Because sometimes, as we all know, there are many stories that have been published, that have been recorded, that have been thrown into the ethos of the internet, that are interpretations from outside of the people that the story actually comes from. And so building trust with the local whānau can take time, and sometimes it takes a lifetime. And so ngā mihi nui kia koutou. I'm going to hand it over to Kelly. He's got his ringa up and he can share some kōrero. Mauri ora, brother.
Awesome kōrero, everybody. And what Horomona is talking about is just bang on how, to take things a little bit slower because we're trying to build up something here. So what I wanted to actually reflect on is something around that. And I'm just going to share something quickly here. And I'll just enlarge that up a little bit. Where are we? Where's my sharing button gone? Oh, holy heck, it's gone. Share screen, here we go. Just going to share an image here. Okay, so this image here is it's back at the carving school. And Whakairo itself is the father, the parents of where a lot of our instruments come from. So there is a music tradition or a sound making tradition, but it actually sits underneath the umbrella of Whakairo as well. So there's a responsibility in Te Ao Māori. Now, what are some art forms that you know of in Te Ao Māori that you already, apart from carving, what other art forms do you know of? Just turn on your mic and call it out.
Does the tuku
Kia ora.
right?
Yep, the panel tuku. And that includes now knowledge of plants as well that are used inside of that too. Kieke, pingao. So there's a whole lot, and there's a lot of stories that go with that too, and it's a really deep knowledge. And that's related to the art form of raranga, which is the weaving arts. There's the arts of making kakahu, our cloaks, our capes, and the knowledge around birds. And then there's the preservation of birds. So there's a lot of traditional knowledge that's in here in our art forms. Now, I'd say that taonga puoro, I can't think of any other art forms that are still yet to wake up in Te Ao Māori. So a lot of these art forms have been asleep for a while. So I just reflect on this picture here. This is Pine Taiapa, who's he revitalized a lot of the carving. And so therefore, he taught a lot of the carvers. Why I'm saying this is that inside of Te Ao Māori, any new art form or any art forms that have been revitalized and woken up again, the people who should be the keepers of that knowledge are who? Who do you think? Because there's some debates that happen around this. Also, tā moko, like what the mata ora that Horo has on his kanohi here. Think about who the practitioners are in mata ora and in tā moko. Māori. The practitioners in raranga are Māori. The practitioners in carving are Māori. These are the people who are the main practitioners there, and there are subsets of people who have learned the art form as well. But Māori will always retain the mātauranga and always retain the mana of their art form. So while we're going through this, it's to remind us too, the whole way through, is that Māori will retain the art form of taonga puoro as well. Even though we've had great practitioners who are non-Māori who have been part of the revitalisation, the mana of it still sits with Te Ao Māori. And so it's to remind us too that as we go on the journey, if you start feeling like you're taking off and really advancing the art form, always check back in with Te Ao Māori about where that is, because there are people who do things with it and they will create new instruments, they'll create new art forms, but it's not related to our whakapapa. It's not related to our pūrākau and our stories, and it's actually very unrelated, but it looks like it might have come from another culture. And in another 20 years, we're going to have instruments that are not related to us and we don't know how they got there. So we, as Māori, would like to say we'd like to retain that, and that's more around cultural safety. So that's just something I'll put in here, and those people who are listening out there in the internet world too, It's something that we take very seriously, but we also love to share this space. But in the end of the day, we want the decision making for how the art form expands and grows to still sit within a body of Māori thought leaders. Haumanu is one of them, which includes people who are non-Māori in there too. But it will still sit with a whakaaro Māori and a matauranga Māori lens of how we advance it, and we have debates about how we advance things as well. So anyway, that's my kōrero around that. To retain ihi, wehi, mana, the mana has to sit with te ao Māori at the end. The mana can't sit outside of our culture. Does that make sense? If it does, it doesn't have mana for us. We can't have a whole branch of people who are non-Māori going and creating a whole new way of this art form and then say that that has the mana now, unless it's been sanctioned by a higher level tohunga governing body of te ao Māori who hold that mātauranga. Anyway, I'll just put that out there, and that can be sit there to stew away, and we can think about that over our sessions and work out how do we enhance that and also be participants in that too, so it doesn't make you feel like you can't participate in it. It's more like it's like you're taking a ride on a ferry to go somewhere, and you're part of the traveling party, but you're not driving the ferry as such all the time, you know? You're not the person who has to maintain the ferry either. We're literally all passengers on it at the moment, but the people who maintain the ferry, change the parts and decide when the times it's leaving and will come back, will generally be, the mana will sit with those people, which will be te ao Māori. Ka pai?
Ka pai, and just to add to that kōrero that Kelly said, you know, we are not taking, because, you know, the beautiful thing about non-Māori practitioners like Papa Richard Nuns, him and Hirini Melbourne were the two forefront exponents of the revitalization of taonga pūoro. When you're looking for puka puka about taonga pūoro, you will find Richard Nuns, Te Ara Pūoro. You will find Brian Flintoff and Papa Hirini's taonga pūoro singing treasures. Then you'll find writings of Te Ahu Karamu Charles Royal. Then you'll find a whole range of things from Elsden Best, William Colenso, Mervyn McLean, you know, ones like the old historians, ethnomusicologists.
Rangi Hiroa.
Yeah, those ones that are non-Māori, you see from the very preface of their books that they write, that they've written, that the interpretation of what they've written is their interpretation of what they see. When it comes from a te ao Māori, it comes from the collective understanding of those people. And that's where why that when it comes to the mana of the kōrero, it does go back to te ao Māori. Like a violin would go back into the world of classical, even though you can hear violin in jazz, blues, hip hop, you hear cello in so many different spaces. The mana of a cello will always go back to that classical history. There are certain instruments that, you know, the history of those instruments has a beginning and has a genealogy, and all of that is acknowledged. When it comes to te ao Māori, that's why you will hear Kelly and I, whenever we're mentioning things that were taught to us, we will mention the names of our predecessors. We will mention the names of our mentors, of our teachers, of our guides, of our tohunga that have guided us into the spaces that we're in. And so just in finishing off for this evening, that's where you will find the ihi, the wehi, the mana, the tapu, and the wana is in the journey, the interweave of all of those things that connect us. And so in that whānau, once again, going back into our kaupapa kōrero, going back into our kaupapa here, when it comes to finding our understanding into the world of music from a lens in te ao Māori, using these guides, ihi, wehi, tapu, and mana. You know, we each have our individual, all of that. We have our whānau, our families, all of that. We have our schools, all of that. we have our curriculums, all of that. And it's just finding the right way to conduct and interweave between the strands to bring good harmony and good balance. And so just as we close, I'm just going to come back to this. You know what music is? God's little reminder that there is something else besides us in the universe. Harmonic connection between all living beings everywhere, even the stars. Now, I didn't know Robin Williams was religious, but why I got this one, it's not so much because it says God's little reminder. Depending on what, it allows us to understand, the creator, the energy of life, our vibration and frequency that we have atonement with. It's connected to all of us. And coming into our session next week, whānau, we're actually coming into our experimental phase. We're coming back next week into what are different contexts and expressways and unique ways through combining and shaping music concepts. Experiment with music tools, concepts when composing or performing music. How we could do that with taonga pōro, or using taonga pōro as the inspiration, and finding different ways of connecting everything we've done in all the sessions before into finding and exploring how music styles from different contexts are expressed in unique ways through the combination, through the shaping of music concepts. And so that's pretty deep in itself, whānau. And so next week I'll be coming into the session from Hawaii. I've still got to organize what time that means for me over there. I think it's 10 p.m. yesterday. And so I'll make sure I find I'll have a good connection while I'm over there. Maybe we're staying in some university student dorms while we're there, but I'll find a space for me over there to connect with everybody. But for this next week, whānau, have an awesome week. Continue to learn how to play a shell. Continue to grow your toka, your tumutumu. Continue to create connection and networks, and continue to be you. I'll always go back. I love Albert Einstein's proverb that he says, music is,
intelligence.
Yeah, music is intelligence having fun. Have fun, whānau. Because sometimes our mahi can be quite deep and quite strenuous. But if we can have fun, that lifts the rongoa, that starts the healing, and the whole world needs a bit of that at the moment. And so,
Aira, tautoko.
Yep. And so if we go back, if Kelly, bro, if you can take us to our karakia, we'll finish off this evening with our karakia.
Awesome.
And then that's us, whānau.
Awesome. We're going to do the second part of our karakia whānau. I put inside of the chat this book called Māori Music, and if you are going to read any books on Māori music, that one I really recommend. Johannes Anderson was one of those ethnocologists who went through the whole Pacific, and he poses some really good whakaaro and ideas in there, and so that's a good reference from a historian. And it's just good to know, it's got some good anecdotes around how Māori music was sounding when Europeans came here. I'm saying next week, for our kōrero, have ready an image of a taonga pūoro that you'd like to know more about. So you can bring a picture of it, or you might already had it, and tell us what you know about it already. That's going to be in your intro, okay? Tell us this about, say, for instance, here's a puto rino, and I know that it's the only instrument in the Māori repertoire that is not found anywhere else in the world, but I don't know how to play it. Something like that. Kia ora. Let's go share our karakia. And this is the second half of our karakia after tau mai te Māori. Can everyone see that okay? Okay, here we go. So, ngā whakaroto, breathe in the nose. Hā whakawaho. Blow it out. Ngā whakaroto. Hā whakawaho. One more. Ngā whakaroto. Ko te ao whekere, ko te ao whatumā, ko te ao mārama, ko te ao tūroa. Tupu kere kere, tupu wana wana. Ko rehia, ko hene rau katauri, ko hene rau katamea, ko hene moana, ko hene moke moke, ko pepe, ko wao nui, ko wao roa, ko te kū, te whē, te more. Iahu mai koe ihea, iahu mai koe ki tāwhiti tai, tāwhiti uta, tāwhiti runga, tāwhiti raro. Ka puta ko pūtōrino, ko pūtātara, ko pūkāia, ko pūmotomoto, ko pūrerehua, ko pūoro. Ngā reo wa wai tī, ngā reo wa wai tā. Te reo āio, te reo āio. Te reo mā, te reo uri, te reo mauri. Te reo tū, te reo tūwā. Uhi, wairo, tau mai te hauora. Haumi e, hui e, tai ki e. Ka pai te whānau. If you want to know the meanings of more of those words, you're going to have to sit in the Wānanga with us for a good couple of years.
Ka pai. Nā we.
Pō Māori e te whānau.
Ka pai whānau.